Hello, you're watching Startup Booster, an online guide that will help you to create and develop a successful startup. This video course was created by a global platform for startups and investors InMind.com. InMind connects professionals in the sphere of innovations, helps startups to find investors, mentors, and partners, and provides instruments and resources for growth and development of a business, supports investors with expertise and due diligence. I'm Katerina, co-founder of InMind.com, and our guest today is Nicolai Oster, head of ICO at Bitcoin Suisse. Hello, Nicolai.
Hi, Katerina.
So today we're going to speak about the topic which is so much on the hype right now, which raises lots of questions, both from the side of startups and investors. We are going to speak about blockchain, about ICO in particular, about investing in cryptocurrencies. So my first question, Nicolai, would be, how can a person become a crypto investor? What is necessary to do?
There's different ways to approach that. There's a way where you sign up at an exchange, which offers you to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. You can also go, if you're up in larger scale, to a broker and trader company like Bitcoin Suisse, where you simply purchase some cryptocurrencies. It's rather simple. You go through a compliance procedure most of the times, and once that is done, you're free to buy and sell.
So, for example, me as a person, to become an investor, I first need to check all the legislation system. And what would be the next step? So should I open the wallet and then directly I can already invest, or do I need some particular background, some particular knowledge?
Of course, you should always have background and knowledge when you put money into something. You should never throw your money at anything you don't know anything about. So the best thing is, of course, to make some studies, sign up into different community groups, and learn and read about the things you're going into first. But then afterwards you can approach brokers. You can sign up at exchanges. There's ATMs in most countries for purchases of Bitcoin. There's many ways, but the ground rule number one is read about the things you put money into.
Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable. About the community that you just mentioned, could you give examples of what kind of communities should I sign into, like in Switzerland or abroad? Where to find these communities?
There's a lot of different communities. The most obvious is, of course, the Reddit communities and the Reddit subchains there are, where there's a lot of discussion going on, both valuable and useless as well. Then there's a lot of different Slack groups and Telegram groups, which you usually can find in the different Reddit forums. But my first approach would be to, if you want to find a community, go to Reddit and yeah, go to the subreddit of Bitcoin or Ether Trader or something similar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so getting knowledge from the community, subscribing to different social media, let's say, well, if we can consider Reddit as a social media as well, Slack, participating, getting involved. Okay, this I know. What are the other aspects that person investing into cryptocurrency should be aware of? Maybe some dangers, some risks, except of course losing everything.
Everybody should be aligned with the understanding that investing in crypto is considered extremely a high-risk investment. It's an extremely volatile market. Usually it's very illiquid and volatile markets, meaning that the price changes quite a lot on a daily basis and on a minute basis. So the dangerous thing is, of course, to buy at the top, but you should always be aware that there's risk of being hacked if you don't protect yourself good enough. There's the risk of, particularly if you're trading on exchanges, that the exchange get hacked and these kind of things. But everybody should be aware that all this is high risk. A black swan can happen any day, and everybody should prepare for that. Personally, I think crypto is a very good investment, and especially on the long-term run. So if you have the courage to
be aware of risks that you are taking. So no one can remove them from you once you're getting there. Could you tell me a little bit about Bitcoin Suisse? What are you doing at Bitcoin Suisse?
Yeah, with Bitcoin Suisse, we are a financial intermediary based here in Zug. We've been in Zug since 2013, meaning that we are actually the original crypto valley company, regulated since 2014. What we normally were specialized in is large-scale brokerage and trading and financial services and wealth management for high-net individuals and ultra-high-net individuals, as well as we're now providing quite a variety of services for especially ICO entities, people who are acquiring capital in using this financial tool as an ICO is.
Mm-hmm. What do I need, for example, how can I open a crypto wallet with cryptocurrency? What should I do?
Yeah, but of course, there's many different types of crypto wallets. There's different types for each blockchain which exists, and you can't use the same wallet for different blockchains. But what the most important thing is that about what you go into and what tools you're using. Whenever you are holding crypto asset you should always be in control of your own private key. Meaning that if you have your funds on an exchange, you don't have the control over your private key, meaning the funds can be lost. It also applies for several sites where you can buy and sell cryptocurrencies, which is not exchanges. So the most important thing is, if you want to keep your funds safe, you make sure you have the private key yourself. You make sure that you protect the backup seeds before accessing your wallet like it was your most precious baby. Don't show this to anyone. Don't hide it under your pillow. Don't put it on your refrigerator. Put it somewhere safe.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain the system with multi-key wallets? How does it work?
Yeah, but there's these multi-signature wallets which function as an escrow where you in the wallet can define, of course, how many have access to see the wallet and interact with the wallet, but you define how many of these key holders need to actually approve a transaction before it gets broadcasted to the network, meaning that the purpose of a multisig is that you cannot, as a single person, transfer funds out of the wallet, but you need the consensus, or you need the majority, or whatever is defined as the required amount of people to approve this transaction before it ever gets broadcasted to the network.
So as far as I understand, this is needed to create higher level of security. For example, if one person, like let's say, occasionally put the key on the fridge and then it got lost, so the transaction will not take place without the allowance, without the accordance with other key holders.
Yeah, that's true. A good example is, for example, the multi-sig solution we from the side of Bitcoin Suisse offer to storage of very, very large amount of funds. We're talking $20 million and above, where we from the side of Bitcoin Suisse usually hold half of the key, and a little over half of the keys are needed to sign a transaction. This means that you have multiple people who need to approve this transaction, and especially protecting against theft. Theft in crypto is possible, and you can have a gun pointed to your head. But if you're not sufficient enough to broadcast to the network because you need a third party or second party, then that a higher level of security. But it's always how the people who are taking part of this multi-sig solution handles the key, because the weakest point is usually the human contact point. Of course, there can be bugs and there can be failures in the technology, but with technology which is commonly used, which is usually tested quite thorough, this is usually not the case. So where the weakest point is actually at the human level. And that is why it's reasonable to have a multi-sig wallet for storage of a very large amount of funds, because you cannot be tampered with as a single person, where people then can gain access to your funds.
Okay, so that's, I see, I understand now why it is so important to have better security, to have, to protect your wallet with this multi-signature key, multiple signatures. Okay.
And then yeah, you can of course take it to the higher level, which we're also doing here at Bitcoin Suisse, where you're actually doing the whole thing offline, meaning that you're signing on computers or hardware which never ever touches the internet or touches other units, where you are transferring information, for example, via QR codes. So there's never ever any outside influence towards the unit, which can be tampered. And then this is called cold storage. Which increases the level of security, which can only be recommended if you're storing very large amount of funds.
As far as I understand, people based in Switzerland, people who want to open wallet like through your organization, through Bitcoin Suisse, they can have this kind of like high level of security due to this multiple measures that you just enumerated, and they can also get aware due to the ecosystem. So could you please tell me a bit more about the local ecosystem? Why you decided to be based, like why it is Zug as a headquarters of Bitcoin Suisse, and what is happening all around this crypto valley?
Yeah, but back when Bitcoin Suisse was established, that was in 2013. There was really no crypto ecosystem in Zug. We were the first crypto company to be based in Zug, and that was merely because of and CEO Nicolai Oster chose to live in Zug when he moved to Switzerland, and he took the crazy idea of quitting his job and starting a crypto business, which then happened to be in Zug. And Zug is quite a nice place to be. There's a very low personal income tax. The company tax is very reasonable. There's no capital gains tax for private individuals, etc. But also that when you are having such a small canton like Zug, it's the smallest canton in Switzerland, then you are very, very close to in connection with the local regulators, the local people, meaning that you can actually talk with them. The distance between the common citizen and the regulators, it's not that far. And that is why Zug, I think, has developed to be a very good place. And also after the Ethereum Foundation came back in the days, and they came to our office in order to sell some Bitcoin to fund their house, Zug has really moved, and I'm quite glad that the local regulators and authorities and politicians at Zug see the opportunities which lays within crypto and building an environment, and especially business environment around crypto, in order to be frontiers and a bit progressive in that area.
What do you personally think? Is there any potential in other cantons of Switzerland or in other regions in the world to develop a similar system, regarding also now the regulations that are coming into place in different countries? Or you think that now it will be Zug and Crypto Valley that will be developing, will be like the pioneer practically in the world to promote and to develop this direction, this crypto industry?
There's several jurisdictions moving into this. There's also the jurisdiction of Liechtenstein, who's moving heavily into especially the ICO area. We're seeing Singapore as well. But the good thing about especially Zug is that Bitcoin Suisse, we've been regulated since 2014, meaning regulations are already in place for crypto. It's already regulations in regard to KYC, anti-money laundering, all these kind of things, and it's a stable jurisdiction. Switzerland is general a very, very stable jurisdiction where the politicians doesn't turn 180 degrees on a plate from one day to another. They don't imprison people, and from what they have done in the past, if it wasn't regulated, there's stability and friendliness towards the business environment, which I think is the reason why it's so front moving on this area. But definitely, I'm not going to say that Zug is going to be the area, because Liechtenstein, London is also moving in, especially Singapore. But the benefit of especially Liechtenstein and Zug is that you're so closely contact with the people making the laws, the people making the framework for the business you're going to build.
So now just turning a little bit to other actors in this industry, to startups who are potentially considering to do ICO, initial coin offering. what would be their, like, would there be better conditions for them to do it in Switzerland rather than in other places in the world? And what would be their benefits of doing it, for example, in particular in Zug?
The benefit of doing it in Zug is that we got now quite long precedence of how to handle these ICOs. It started with MME partners and Luca Müller back with the Ethereum Foundation, came to Zug, where they kind of took the frontier battle with the regulators, and not battle, but the frontier talk with the regulators, and created the precedence on how this is handled. From the side of FINMA, the Swiss financial authorities, there's also been announced a kind of a sandbox environment within this crowdfunding as it is. So the benefit of Zug is that quite a significant amount of companies and foundations who have made an ICO has been done so in Zug, meaning that you're not the first one. It has been done. Other people have done it. The regulators have seen it. So there is this trail there's this precedence, which is quite beneficial in the long run, because, as you know, you're not going to be standing as the only one the regulators are going to hit down on if they choose to change their mind. It's actually going to be quite a significant amount of companies and foundations which has followed the guideline which was made, meaning that I see foundations and companies being more protected in Zug and in Switzerland due to not being the only ones.
And at the same time, if I understand correctly, this creates the ecosystem, meaning that the investors who potentially can bring their funds, who can invest into the ICO during the ICO of the startup, they are also more willing to do that in Switzerland, in Zug, as long as they are more aware and as long as they have this community, supporting community. Is it right?
I would say that would be over-exaggerating. I don't think it's a good benefit for people. I see it as, if I'm in personal investing in something, I'm very much looking at the jurisdiction of the entity making the ICO, and I especially look at the legal partners they have. But I don't know how, if there's rational investors and there is right on the wave investors, meaning that it's not all, or everybody who do the actual due diligence on the things they throw money into, which is kind of sad, and which I wish people would do. But so for me to say whether it's gonna be people are more likely to invest if a company comes from Zug or not, I think I'm too influenced by living in Zug to be able to answer that question, because we're talking about that these ICOs, it's a brilliant, genius financial instrument and tool which you can use to acquire capital, but you're not just acquiring from a small group of people locally, you're acquiring the capital from a broad mass globally. And for me to talk on behalf of a global community, I wouldn't put myself in that place.
Okay, I see. And speaking about startup who did already ICO and let's say successful ICO, and once they got enough investment to call it successful, so what they can do with this cryptocurrencies, I guess now it's the task of Bitcoin Suisse to help them to withdraw those cryptocurrencies into fiat currencies. Is it right?
And people can, of course, do a lot of things with the cryptocurrencies they acquire. They can choose to speculate on the long run. They can also, what is very much the thing which needs to be kept in mind when a company or a foundation is doing an ICO, is that the token they are issuing, it should have some functionalities. It should have some use case which makes it interesting and which gives the token actual value. Because you can easily have these phantom tokens, which is a standard ERC20 token issued by a company or foundation, but where it actually has no functionality, it has no mechanisms and no use case. These kind of things is purely speculative objects, which I personally don't like very much. And I don't see these tokens as anything valuable. But of course, when we're going over to companies issuing tokens which actually have use cases or functionalities, then that could be that the token is used to access things or used in a product, a protocol, or platform which is made by the company. It can also be that the token is a license, allowing that you're actually buying a license to a piece of software. this is just two use cases. So what people choose to do is, of course, up to them. But what is clear for me is that a lot of people go into these ICO from the intention of gaining revenue, meaning that I don't like the word investment. I call it a contribution to these ICO or a purchase. But of course, it's definitely one of the big factors is that the people have seen that they can earn money. If people can earn money, more people will come. And this was what kind of created the whole ICO hype. From my perspective, a lot of the people who invested in the last 6 months in ICO particularly was people who participated also in the Ether pre-sale, meaning that they participated in the first real ICO, let's call it that, a quite significant revenue, to say so, meaning they are much more risk-affine, meaning they're much more risk-willing, putting money in these new ICOs, which was built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. And when something is built on top of a blockchain, on top of a protocol, if that appreciates in value, the value is of course appreciated down in the layers below, meaning that things are built on the Ethereum blockchain, many of them, there's of course also others, which gain value, meaning that the Ethereum increased even more in value. These people have more money, they put more money in ICO, appreciating more. That is a good amount of the people. Of course now, especially from May, June, and also now we're seeing a lot of normal people, let's call them that, seeing the opportunities in contributing to these ICOs. And these people are usually not experienced purchasers of cryptocurrencies, meaning they sign up to an exchange, they go in, they place a market order because they don't know how to actually buy cryptocurrencies. These markets are extremely illiquid if you compare it to traditional financial markets, meaning they pump up the price artificially. We saw that back in May, June, where after each large ICO, such as Bamcore, Status, BAT, also Tezos, the price actually quite significantly, indicating clearly that this was people buying up for participating in the ICO. And this is, of course, increasing the price, meaning that people invest in more. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicolai, for this very insightful contribution. It's really very interesting, and I'm sure that we will continue this discussion after this interview. This record will be published. I can imagine that we'll have lots of new questions, additional questions to you specifically, and I guess we will continue the topic and speak a bit more about ICO to give some advice and insight for the startups who are planning to do it. What I see right now is that, as you mentioned, that ICO is very often associated with big money. So it's not always the case. Thank you so much, Nicolai, and we invite all our listeners, all the audience who are watching us right now, to join inmind.com to read our blog and to watch other interesting episodes of Startup Booster. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
You're welcome.